Now, in relationship to the world being an illusion, the surface things are transformations of the one thing. The one thing is under the surface. It's not on the surface. The one thing is the great informant of all things. And the idea is that the source of all life is one. It doesn't have any separated experiences or aspects of itself. It's all one. And that means that there's no relativity. There's no space or time. Carl Jung mentioned the unconscious is similar to this in that all time and all space can be one in a dream. So when we're dreaming, we can be in one place at one moment and another place in another moment at a different time. So we could dream about an experience that we had today and then all of a sudden be back where we were as a child having an experience. These kinds of things where there's no relativity falls away. And then the source splits itself off and separates itself to have experiences of itself. When it's all one, it cannot experience itself. But if it splits itself apart into infinity, then it can experience separate aspects of itself. But the world being an illusion in relationship to transformation or metamorphosis, transformation is the same process only in a transformed way. So an addict, bringing up Dr. Drew, since I've been talking about Dr. Drew and he's worked with addiction. An addict, say somebody addicted to alcohol, can then get clean and sober, but then become addicted to exercise or health care, being healthy. It's the same addiction, only transformed. There has not been a metamorphosis where there's been a complete change. And the typical example of metamorphosis is the worm becoming a butterfly, the caterpillar becoming a butterfly. That's a complete metamorphosis of form. And I relate this to Wolfgang von Goethe, or Goethe, where he says the Godhead is effective in the living, growing, and changing, making use of the fixed and set fast. The living, growing, and changing is that which is the informant of the fixed and set fast. The fixed and set fast are these transformations that happen on the surface. They're the same thing happening over and over and over and over and over, only in different form. But the living, growing, and changing is the metamorphosis that arises within. So we are the same person we always are, but there are though we transform our situation, say work, home, friends, and entertainment, we're one person going through all those things, but we are informing all of those things. But we got to be careful not to get too caught up in the surface stuff, the work context, the family context, the entertainment context. Now, there's plenty of healthy people that are going through all of this stuff in a very healthy way, but that does not mean they're conscious of it. They're just living. Okay? I separate this, and I've been working with my friend about this. Obviously, he has the ability to observe and be conscious of this, or to be conscious of it is very, very important for his ability to process what he's going through. So some people will just naturally want to just live healthy, but they're not conscious of it. They're not conscious. And what I mean by conscious is that they can't express it. They're unable to give terms and words and descriptions of it. Whereas others, and I've read these authors, they are actually able to consciously verbalize what's transpiring within them. And it all comes back down to the same basic process of becoming aware of the fact that there are surface things and there are underlying things. Now, the surface things are what science is involved with, but the underlying informing spirit of the matter is metaphysical or spiritual or religious. And those things cannot be measured in the same way that the surface things can be measured. And, so science's domain is science's domain, but science needs to realize that its domain is the surface, not the underlying. However, being that the source is discovering different aspects of itself that it has separated off from itself, the scientist can, through the surface things, researching the surface things and measuring them, and the quantity and quality and modality and all that of the surface stuff, can have glimpses of the underlying informing stuff. And this can be really transformative for a lot of people, but not necessarily metamorphic. It doesn't necessarily change them. It just gets them more involved in the surface stuff. Ooh, let me discover more, to try and get these glimpses of the underlying thing. However, the underlying thing is consistent and always, whereas the surface thing is, though it seems constant, is chaotic and ever-changing and ever-shifting, because there's an infinite amount of transformations that occur.